Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 126, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
Wow. OG3 back again.
Are we just going to keep making this joke?
That's quite terse. And trite. And pedantic.
What?
And punctual.
Punctual.
And just,
and
other words to make us sound smart.
Effervescent.
Comquescent. So anyway, we have
and that's the show for today.
Yeah.
Now our favorite made-up words and their meanings. We actually have a really great show. So I came up with the idea for this topic because, as our listeners have known, I have been playing the original Dark Souls, and it's been taking me for fucking ever to get through it. And
as Dark Souls does.
Well, not only is it a long game, but like I also don't have much like Vise time with the TV. You know what I mean? And this was before the
I know
Switch...
what you mean, wink wink.
This is before the Switch version of the game came out, of course. So, I probably would play it on the Switch now that it's out.
Yeah.
And from all accounts, I think that game is held as pretty good. But anyway, I love this game. I was so intimidated by it because I didn't get very far in Demon Souls, and when I picked up, I knew I was wrong because so many people loved it. Like Pyro, you loved it. Lotus, you loved it. This game and this series are great, very, very rewarding. But I got my ass kicked, and I got discouraged by it when I shouldn't have been.
This was in the advertisements. Like, Demon Souls is kind of like what brought back Nintendo hard, but Dark Souls had the you died up front. Everyone knew about that.
Well, not only that, but Demon Souls, the limited edition is your character dead and full of arrows slumped on the ground. That's the cover.
That's fantastic.
I love that. That's one of my favorite covers of a video game ever. Because it exemplifies the game.
Man. Gotta be Road Avenger.
But Road Avenger does have a really good one. Final Fight does have a really good one too.
Final Fight's regular cover and the Super Nintendo cover are fantastic, and there are different ways.
I also really like Double Dragon 2's. That one looks really badass as well. But anyway, this isn't our favorite video game covers. I wanted to talk about the hardest bosses that we fought in games, and it doesn't necessarily have to be they're the hardest in general, but difficult for us, that you remembered.
Sure.
You remembered fighting. So I really loved playing this game. I am now at the very end. I will probably talk about it in an upcoming episode, but I just have last minute things that you want to do kind of stuff, upgrade weapons that I don't particularly need, create things that I don't necessarily need, fight characters I don't necessarily need to. But I've just completed the DLC. I've gotten all of the Lord Souls. So all I have to basically do is go in and fight Gwyn. So I loved this game, and I'm really, really, really enjoying playing it. You know what it took was friend of the show, Retro Gamer, our friend that from Ireland that has joined us on the show before. He really helped me out in the beginning of the game. He helped me beat up to the gargoyles in co-op mode on when Dark Souls Remastered came out. I got so discouraged from playing this game because when the game originally came out, when it was on the Xbox 360 and PS3, when I bought it, the game I went down the wrong path and was continuously fighting those fucking skeletons.
It's so bad. Everybody makes that mistake.
On the way to what is it? What's their area called?
The catacombs.
The catacombs, exactly. And I was like, well, fuck this game. Like, I went down the wrong path, and they followed me all the way to like Firelink, and then killed me. Fuck
that was
this
the best
shit.
part. They will actually follow you to the bonfire. So like you're like, oh, I really thought they would just give up. Nope.
So I was like, I was very intimidated, and I didn't go back. And then what happened was Retro Gamer made a concerted effort to get me to a good level and also have a decent sword by the time we started playing. And he gave me a few of the bigger like soul items so I could level up a few times. So I and also you don't really know how to like balance your character at first because you don't know what you want to be in that game at first.
Yeah, because you have to like pick which stats you want to raise based on what like weapons you want to use, and you can't undo that. So
exactly, like I really shouldn't have put much into Dex at all. Because like I didn't have any dex-based weapons, dexterity-based weapons.
Yeah,
I ended up being
Dex is
strength
for like bows and spears.
Exactly. I basically exclusively used a longsword the entire game.
I pumped Dex a bit because it was like the secondary stat that scales with swords, and also I was not a pyromancer. I used a bow, so like,
See, I should have. What I should have done was not put anything into Dex and get a third attunement slot. But
okay.
But anyway, I digress. He got me where I needed to do to pass two major bosses, and the Minotaur and the gargoyles, and then from that point.
Demon.
Yes, the Capra Demon?
Yeah, the guy who's the guy with the dog. Oh no, the Taurus Demon, excuse me.
Taurus Demon, yes.
By the way, how did you like how in the Demon Ruins they're just like regular enemies? It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah. But I love this game. It's very rewarding, and now I'm fighting shit I don't need to fight. I just beat Calamite today.
Yeah, that fight sucks.
It is considered by a lot of people to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest, boss in the series.
That's horseshit.
Really?
I don't know if Bloodborne is counting in that, but like, if it is, that's bullshit. Like Calamite, the thing with Calamite is it's not terrible to dodge his attacks and sneak in a hit. The problem is that he just has so much health, you'll mess up sooner or later and die.
Yeah. So that was the thing when I fought him. I got him down pretty far, so I knew I could beat him. That was the thing.
You know what you need to do is you need to fight the Fume Knight in Dark Souls 2's DLC. That guy is tough.
Well, I can't wait till that. But I wanted to talk about Calamite here and also Manus. Manus was very difficult for me until I found out his tricks. I had some coaching from Lotus on quite a few parts of the game. Lotus knows this game inside and out, and he better after the amount of times you've played it.
I platinumed it twice, like PS3 and PS4.
Like, Jesus.
So I beat the game 2.5 times 2, so like 4 complete times and 2 half times.
Yeah, so you're very much an expert in the original Dark Souls. So I had some help from you, but that and I seem to have trouble with a lot of bosses that a lot of other people didn't. So I tend to have trouble with the big gigantic bosses, and the humanoid ones that are difficult because they have like skills and thought. I'm actually very good against because here's my reasoning. I think the reason why I'm good at fighting those type of characters is they're very similar to the mooks in a couple regards in how they attack. Yeah, exactly. So even a difficult humanoid character like Artorias, I could still get around him, and I can also counter attack and things like that. So
you'd probably do all right in Dark Souls 2 because one of the complaints about that game was that too many bosses were just knights, like just big human types. Like there was some variation, especially in the DLC, but like it's like another one. Okay.
Manus was very difficult for me as well. He's the end boss of the DLC. Mm-hmm. He sucks. I hated fighting him. I only barely killed him, and I was very, very happy to do so. But
Yeah.
I was also thinking to myself, if you don't have the silver pendant, how do you beat this guy? Because you,
Insane dodge roll timing.
yeah,
I've
because
never even tried that.
you have to deflect his dark magic with an item that you can only get if you have the good endings for Solaire, essentially.
Well, no, you to be fair, you don't need the good ending for Solaire. If you mess it up and you have to kill Solaire, then
You get the Sunlight Hat either way. The Sunlight
yeah,
Magnet
because
hat. You'll kill him.
the bug you
Gotcha.
killed was the one that latched onto Solaire, so you would pick the Sunlight
Okay.
Maggot off of his body.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
you would get it, but but you need to almost beat the game, or at least get up to Lost Izalith if you want to have the Sunlight Maggot.
Gotcha. Well, I also had trouble with the Ceaseless Discharge, which is...
Well, that one was kind of funny because that's considered to be among the easiest bosses if you know what to do. I linked you to a video where I beat him the stupid way, because fighting him for real actually is pretty rough, because he has these giant,
That's how I did it.
giant punches that will definitely one-shot you. But if you do it the cheap way, you run back to the beginning of the boss arena, he trips in an attempt to fight you, and is holding on to this bridge for dear life, and you just hack his hand a couple of times, and you just watch his health bar just go boom, and he just falls away, he's dead. It's amazing.
Yeah, there were actually a couple bosses that I killed really fucking easily.
You could actually also, I've never done it, but you can actually do that to the Taurus Demon and the giant iron golem in Sen's Fortress. You can position them so they fall off of the respective stages.
Well, you saw me fight the Iron Golem. I killed him in the first try.
You beat the shit out of him. That was ridiculous. But you could still make him fall. It's so frustrating because every time I knock him down, I'm like, will this be the one? And no, he just falls on his ass. He didn't fall off. I'm like, aw.
I fucked him up.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
But I think that was partially due to the summon that I had as well.
Yeah, Tarkus helps. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had a really great time at this game. I'm talking about it in past tense because I'm gonna beat it. I mean, Gwyn is not the most difficult. I'm sure he's the most epic, boss. He's not... If
you fight him for real, he's pretty damn difficult. But if you get parry timing down, in the video where I beat Gwyn in my Let's Play, I think I got hit twice.
See, I'm pretty good with parrying because I had to be.
Yeah, well, Gwyn is your man. Then you're gonna want to go from a great shield to a regular shield and just parry him and riposte, and that's the entire fight.
Do you remember why I had to get good at parrying?
Actually, no.
I accidentally aggroed the forlorn soldier at Firelink. And I kept respawning at Firelink.
Yeah, that's a bitch.
So every time I would just be respawned and he would kill me. Respawn, he would
that's
kill
what
me.
I was warning you about with Gwendolyn. I don't even know if you have to kill him, even if you just aggro him. Then if you ever appear at the bonfire by that one firekeeper, she'll just go after you, and she's unlike the Forlorn Knight, she actually knows how to fight. You kept dying to the Forlorn Knight, but
because it was
you
early
had just
in
started
the game.
You'd be able to wreck him now, but that firekeeper is actually kind of serious business.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny. So so I got used to parrying because that was the only way that I could survive and continue the game. So
also that just that sound when you get it right, that boom, you're like, oh, here it comes. It's so good.
But yeah, we should move on to some other picks, guys. Why don't you talk about some bosses here, since I have my time.
When we came up with this topic, I've been thinking about bosses, and honestly, most of the bosses that I thought of were either final bosses in games or secret bosses in games, or not any, but a lot of bosses from Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. But I feel that's kind of not no offense to what we were just talking about just now, but I feel that's kind of cheap because they're supposed to be hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The bosses in Dark Souls are supposed to be hard. Final bosses.
Yeah. What are the odds? The secret boss of the hard series is hard.
Yeah, but that being said, in Bloodborne, I think the boss I had the most difficulty with was Father Golgarian or whatever his name is.
Gascon.
Yeah.
That guy's rough.
That's at the beginning of the game, right?
Yeah, he's one of the first bosses, but he's
only like
rough.
the second or third boss. But yeah, he was really difficult. And like the other bosses, I think there was another one in that game that I had difficulty with, but overall, like I didn't have as much. And then
I forgot. Dark Souls, I don't think you had done this at the time, and I don't know if you ever went back. But did you do Bloodborne's DLC?
I did not do the DLC.
Okay, because like people talk about the Orphan of Kos. I think he's the boss of the DLC as being like
yes, I heard that he was like
brutal,
really really hard. Yeah, and then in Dark Souls 3, I still haven't beaten that because I got to the who's the boss that like teleports around? Not the sage.
The dancer.
But no, the one after the dancer maybe.
I'm sorry, I don't know Dark Souls 3. I just know that the dancer like actually moves in like a musical rhythm, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's the one before the dancer, but there's a boss that like teleports around, or he's like, and was really obnoxious, and that was a time when I haven't played in a while, and I was going to play again. And I'm like, I'm going to try to get farther, and I got to him, which is already a feat, and I'm like, I don't want to take the time to kind of like study this boss and get better at it, so. But yeah, those bosses are hard. But honestly, one of the bosses I thought of that, to me, was really hard, more because it was just obnoxious, was the final boss in Borderlands 1.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because it's just a bullet sponge.
Yeah.
And it's a bullet sponge that can not necessarily one-shot kill you, but does like massive damage. And it's a game that like I don't feel like I should have to grind, especially to beat the final boss. And I think a lot of the bosses in the Borderlands games were just bullet sponges.
Yeah,
because
there wasn't much strategy to them.
Because they have to be able to be beatable by all 4 classes. They do have a level, like each boss is a level, and even if you're like 2 levels higher, they're still gonna be a little difficult because they just take so much damage and you might run out of ammo. Plus, there are a lot of bosses in the Borderlands pre-sequel where you're fighting a boss and there's all these other spawns, which just makes it really annoying because so the reason why they have the spawns, I think, is mainly because you kill them and they can drop ammo because you have limited ammo. But also that means you have like 20 guys shooting at you at once, and it just gets really annoying. So I felt like for a lot of bosses in Borderlands, I had to cheat them as much as possible. Like hide behind something and then pop out, shoot, hide, pop out, shoot, hide. It got really obnoxious. Mm-hmm. So I think those were kind of the most annoying bosses I ever fought. But other than that, like I couldn't really think of many that didn't feel like I was just talking about a final boss that was hard.
Here's a question. I did not play this. I've never played a game in the series. But did you guys play Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2?
Yeah, I played
Sephiroth?
1 all the way to Hollow Bastion.
Honestly, Sephiroth was hard, but it was doable because kind of like Dark Souls, it was just learning his pattern.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that. I just remember people saying Sephiroth does like it reduces your health to 1 and then just smacks you. Or in Dark Souls 2, he has a potential easily counterable. You gotta be ready insta kill move.
I never knew Sephiroth was in Dark Souls.
Did I say Dark Souls?
Yes.
Oh, that's embarrassing. But no, but Kingdom Hearts 2, he has an insta-kill move, which you can easily counter a triangle, but, like, you better.
Yeah, but no, it's like Dark Souls where, like, if you're paying attention, you know what movie's going to use, you just remember how to counter it. Whereas in Borderlands, it's just, you get shot all the time, and...
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass.
Like, you can beat Sephiroth without getting hit, just like you can beat any of the Dark Souls bosses without getting hit if you're good, but in Borderlands,
you can see people do it on like, YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. Actually, one of the Games Done Quick runners for swag, like, beat, I think, several of the bosses, like, blindfolded. It's like, oops, I'm coming on a boss, let me put on my blindfold. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, most of the Borderlands bosses, I don't think you can beat them without being unscathed, just because there's so many things shooting you.
Yeah, there's just, like, shrapnel.
Those are mine right now, but I want to hear the rest of yours while I try to think of more.
Alright, well, I got a couple bullshit ones that I don't know if people would think of off the top of their heads. I already mentioned Fume Knight from Dark Souls 2. I'll go through him really quickly, but, like, his thing is he fights with 2 swords, and one of them is, like, an ultra great sword, so he can block with it. And the thing is, if he ever swings with it, it's really slow, but it has, like, a bigger reach than you might think it does, and even if you tank with it, it'll deal chip damage, which I don't think that literally ever happened in Dark Souls 1. Chip damage if you have, like, a 100% physical blocking shield. Or then again, actually, no, I think... I forgot how this worked. In Dark Souls 2, maybe he had a little bit of an element equipped with it. I think he might have done a little dark damage. That might have been why it chipped. So
Oh,
you
okay.
can't just tank forever, but when he gets partway through the fight, he like powers up his sword, and now it has more of like a fire attribute, so he deals even more damage, and his attacks get worse. And finally, he just drops his smaller sword and only uses the big sword, and it's like insane damage. You really can't block him anymore.
You
And the
know what I
thing
was
is,
I sorry to interject
yeah,
here, but I just thought of this. You know what I was really surprised about Dark Souls and the way the bosses work?
yeah.
Um, except for an exception of one boss fight, which is a dual boss fight.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, of course.
um, I was very surprised that the first game, the the bosses that you fight don't really have phases like other games
No,
do.
and in Dark Souls 2, some clearly have phases. The closest to phases I can think of is the Orange Demon Smog fight,
Yeah, exactly.
but also kind of, this doesn't really count, but kind of Artorias, because when he gets mad and starts getting his darkness super armor, like if you can hit him out of that. If you don't, God help you, because he has super armor and he like will one shot you or two shot you.
See, I just kicked his ass, so I didn't even
You
get
well,
to
you
that.
better, because if you let
Yeah,
him power up, you would have a bad time.
yeah.
But
Sorry to interrupt.
as far as the Fume Knight though, when he powers up for like a third time, you really can't tank anymore. And the thing is, I play a tank, so like all of a sudden, I'm through the story content and I'm doing DLC, and this is like the second of three DLCs, so I'm like 60 or 70 hours in, and like now I have to learn how to dodge roll. I'm like, ah, shit. So like that was pretty rough. Like I mean, that's my own fault, but it's just like ah. But other than the soul stuff, I guess this is a bit obscure. Although I did let's play it. The final boss of Galarian's Ash, that thing was bullshit and a half. Like that thing was absolutely absurd. It's Ash in Galarian's Ash. Part of what made him difficult was that he was a bullet sponge as well. Like he had way more health than he had business having, and eventually you're just gonna get worn away. The thing with Galarians and Galarian's Ash is that you have limited ammo. Like the game is not on a timer, but it kind of is. Less so in Ash because your attacks are like you can run out because you use psychic attacks, and if you ever run out, you gotta like inject yourself with this drug that like restores the attacks. So if you run out, you're out. And same thing, you have health pills. If you run out of those, you run out. I mean, that's not a surprise, but like you only have so much attack. But what makes things worse is that as time goes by, or especially as you use your shield ability, it increases this bar of yours that when the bar fills, you like short out. So you kind of go berserk, but really what ends up happening is you stagger around really, really slowly, and whatever you come in very close contact with will insta die, except for bosses, of course. But your health drains while this is happening as well. You are invincible, but your health is draining, and you are very slow. So there's a drug to get rid of that too, but that can run out. So like this boss was excruciating. I spent a full hour on him trying and dying. It got to a point where I was running out of health items, so when he was about to kill me, I actually used a move that made me instantly short, so I could like absorb his attacks until I can use a thing to unshort myself. It sucked, dude. That fight was brutal. Before I go to another boss, though, did anybody else have other bosses they like to talk about?
I wanted to talk about a couple that are like classic difficult bosses,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and most of them are difficult because of their situation, rather
Yeah.
than like maybe their actual design. Um, so Contra Shattered Soldier has one of the tensest um, final bosses of all time because this game demands perfection of you. In order to get the best ending, you need to not die during the entire game at all.
Oh man.
And this is a game that is designed to not only do you not you don't have any um not only do you not um have the option of getting hit at all, because this is one hit kills in Contra games.
Yeah.
You have to also destroy every part of every boss.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So the bosses all have different sections and like limbs and stuff like that.
It's like the gold cards in Bomberman, those bosses.
So you need to. So like if you're fighting a big robot, you need to kill all of its arms, all of its legs. Even though you could just destroy like the torso and get a kill out of it, it's not considered 100%. So therefore, you will not even get to the final boss of the game because you didn't 100% up until that point.
Pretty obnoxious.
Yeah.
So
really is.
not only do you need to get 100% on everything and not die, but the final boss, like to even see him, you need to have done all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you need to not die while you're fighting him, and you've never seen him before. Like all the other bosses, you've had like a way of like practicing against them, because like you through repetition you get to know their patterns.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy isn't the most difficult boss in the game, but he does stuff you don't expect.
Yeah.
Just from playing the game, so you can foreseeably die against him, which will ruin your entire playthrough up until that point, and you've already been killing it,
Yeah.
So it just sucks. Luckily, the best ending, the quote-unquote best ending, is also a joke ending. So they don't expect you to get it. Like the best ending is the second to like if you beat it, Rocket from Rocket Knight Adventures shows up and you go, what the fuck? And then like it basically just ends.
Oh, that's like the Silent Hill 2 joke ending where like Harry appears from Silent Hill 1 from his joke ending in a UFO and you're like, what? You just go with them. And
in a similar vein, my favorite game is a game called Gunstar Heroes for Genesis. This game is great. And one of the most difficult boss in the game is also the most fun. So I definitely recommend playing this game on hard with a second player, because to get the full experience of the boss, you need to play it on the hardest difficulty. Because under normal, you only get to see 5 forms. So this guy is Gunstar Green's 7 Force. He has 7 different transformations that he can turn his mech into. And you get a random selection of 5 of them in normal mode and 3 of them in easy mode, and you get all 7 in the hard mode, and it's more difficult, and also it's more difficult, and you have all forms to deal with. So it's really epic. It's a lot of fun, and it's especially great in co-op mode. So I definitely recommend it.
Actually, I got a couple more here. One of them I just remembered. It's not a boss, but in Demon Souls, if you ever bring worlds to pure black, you can fight a Black Phantom version of a particular NPC you can meet if the worlds are more white, I suppose. And in the swamp, there's a particular Black Phantom you fight, which is pure bullshit. Because she is not hindered at all in terms of movement when running through the swamp, whereas you can like barely move. And also, her weapon does 100% damage, like even if you block it. So like if you block, then you won't get staggered, but you take full damage. Fighting it is a freaking nightmare.
Are you happy that they've done away with like the pure white tendencies and stuff like that?
Yes.
In the series?
Demon Souls was freaking up too, so I'm glad they got rid of the pure white.
I still don't understand it.
I mean, well, the instruction manual says nothing. Like you got to look the stuff up. It's ridiculous.
Demon Souls have a lot of like hidden mechanics that were really confusing.
Yes. And the only other boss I really wanted to bring up that I can think of off the top of my head is being really frustrating, unless you count like fighting game bosses. Like Shao Kahn in MK9 was some bullshit, but
Shao Kahn in MK1, fuck them. Really.
Shao Kahn didn't exist in MK1. Try again. MK2.
Oh, Shang Tsung. I'm sorry.
Shang Tsung was just every character. I would say Reptile was bullshit. Reptile was Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and he moved at twice speed. It was like,
Gotcha.
What? But the super final boss of Parasite Eve, the first game, you can only access it on New Game Plus going through the Chrysler Building, which is 77 floors of pain. It's really 70 floors of pain, because then the next 6 are like, oh, you know it's coming. But the boss is like really hard, even though you are New Game Plus leveled up. Like you reset to level 1 on a New Game Plus, but you keep like stats you boosted your weapons with. So you're like New Game Plus leveled up, and by this point you should have a really good weapon. Like I had a weapon that dealt like basically triple damage. Not that this mattered for the boss, but it could poison, it could insta-kill. Like, again, that's not going to affect the boss, but, like, my weapon was insane with all sorts of stat boosts and everything, and it still took, like, almost every healing item I had and resurrection item I had. It was a pretty intense fight.
Okay, any more for you, Pyro?
No, I'm still having trouble thinking of bosses. I guess I'm just that good at video games that none of them were really challenging to me.
Dracula in Castlevania 64 was kind of rough.
Yeah.
Just throwing like explosions everywhere.
Actually, the optional boss is extremely difficult in Castlevania.
I never fought them.
Yeah.
I kind of want to. The Merchant.
Was it Legacy of Darkness? Is that what it is?
Well, that was that was Castlevania 64. That was like the director's cut, kind of.
Yeah.
The final Dracula was different from the base game's Dracula, but the optional bosses, I believe, are the same.
Yeah, so the optional boss comes about if you buy too many items from the merchant.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah, the merchant is a demon, and that's extremely obvious at the beginning of the game. He's got like a devil tail, and
he's got red eyes.
Yeah, and he tells you he's a demon. He's like, hey, I'm making some bucks, but like if you spend X amount of cash over the course of the game, then you'll encounter him, and he's like, oh yeah, didn't I mention, like, there's a contract where if you spend this much, then I gotta take your soul, and you're like, no, and he just turns full demon and just beats the shit out of you.
Yeah, so he is the most difficult boss in the game and very difficult to get past, especially if you, and the funny thing is, he punishes players that obviously weren't as good.
Yeah,
because they bought a lot of
like healing
items. Yeah, so they people that have been like seeking extra help are getting the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's particularly difficult because.
Well, to be fair, it's actually kind of hard to spend that much money. But
I did it by accident.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
All right. And the other optional boss is if you took too long, because there's a vampire hunter who is slowly turning, and if like 2 or 3 in-game days go by after you meet him, then he's turned, and you fight him too. And the thing is, this is all right before Dracula. Like, you know, at the end of Ocarina of Time, you go up those stairs, and you're like, it's taking forever. And you're like, there's going to be a boss. At the end of Castlevania 64, you go up this long straight set of stairs. There's this big empty room for apparently no reason. Then you go up another long set of stairs. Big empty room for apparently no reason. Then you go up another long set of stairs. There's Dracula. But those first 2 rooms were where the optional bosses would have been. So it's a boss rush of particularly hard bosses. And then a 3-phase Dracula. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, that was a difficult game. And the final one that I want to mention before we move on to our regular segments is just a shout out to Metroid Prime 2. Now, this is considered by a lot of people to be one of the hardest bosses of all time in a video game. The Boost Guardian.
Time?
A lot of people still talk about this as one of the hardest bosses in video games in general. And also the final boss is particularly difficult. The funny thing is, I didn't have much of a problem with either of these bosses, but a lot of people talk about it. Also in Castlevania, the third one for DS, I forget about it, what the name of it is, but
Portrait of Ruin?
No, Portrait of Ruin's 2.
And Dawn of Sorrow was 1, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because DS.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know.
Well, anyway, that one has this boss pretty early on that is this crab in an elevator shaft. and he's is very difficult for people. But I actually like killed him on my first try. I was like, really? And then like everybody online complains about him.
Well, that was kind of like with me and the Capra Demon in Dark Souls 1, because like he has 2 or 3 dogs that will do minor damage, and then he hits you with his giant heavy attacks.
It's the dogs that are the problem.
Yeah, if you get rid of the dogs, he's like a joke of a boss. He's just a big, slow swinger, and you're just like, okay.
I just went up the steps and kept throwing pyro at him.
The thing is, though, he's in a really tight environment, so it's very easy for your camera to screw you over and for you to get surrounded by his mooks. But if you can get rid of the dogs early, then like there just is no fight.
Yeah. But I think that's a good survey of all of the games here. Order of Ecclesia. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But anyway, I think this is a good survey of bosses. There are a few that are historically really difficult, like Ninja Gaiden 1's boss on the NES. But I haven't fought him personally.
Well, that was another one of those bosses that it was tough because it was multiple phases that you did not heal between, and if you died, then you got to do the whole level over.
The whole section of the level. It's fucked up.
Well, yeah, like level 5-3 or whatever number it was, but it was still like you had to work your way up to him, and it was not an easy level either.
Yeah, that's actually because of they've confirmed that that's a bug in the game.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I watched Game Center CX with Arino playing those games, and he played Ninja Gaiden 1, and they talked about they interviewed the original programmer in the game. He's like, yeah, that was a bug in the game, but we kept it. By the time it came out, it became like the it's just adds to the difficulty of the game. So
that reminds me, like Bucky O'Hare, I think its hardest difficulty was programmed to intentionally be too hard, like as a joke, and now you got like speedrunners who are capable of beating it on hard, but it was not meant to be beaten. Like not that it was impossible, but it's like harder than people would have patience for, but there's always someone who has patience for it.
Everybody gets one. But anyway, we can move on to our regular segments here. We do want to hear about your bosses that have given you guys a hard time, so please do comment in the sections below here on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Please do comment on these things, because there's probably all kinds of bosses that we're not even thinking of, and maybe even some MMO bosses that I don't have a concept of.
Mr. Ryu had a whole segment on I think it was called like Savage Kefka, like God Kefka in FF14.
Yeah, the savage raids are like
because
really
I
hard
said,
in 14.
There is like a 30-minute YouTube video on how to fight him, and this is not one of those you get the idea videos. Like you actually need to study this 30-minute video to do it right. And it's not even you. Like you better have a coordinated party that knows exactly what they're doing, and you could still fuck it up.
Yeah. So anyway, we will move on to our regular segments. The first of which is Vize's weigh-in. So I'm pleased to report I'm at 255 right now, which is 2 pounds down from the last weigh-in that I did. And it is after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
So I've been watching myself.
Thanksgiving more often.
It's always after Thanksgiving, Lotus.
Technically, yes.
But I've been watching myself really hardcore during the weeks. That way, when these holiday and party situations hit up, I can eat a decent amount of food, but I don't go like hardcore like I used to. But I can also not worry too much, and I've been a lot better at being like, you know what, I don't need ice cream at the end of this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's been good for me.
And not to mention, I don't know if you still do this, but like when you're at a social event with friends, you often like being like the cool guy who like buys an appetizer for the table for everyone to share.
I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's not a requirement either. Like we'll forgive you if you don't. Like we didn't even think that you would at first. It's just kind of like, oh, look at this, but like, yeah, you don't have to do that either.
Look, I was just getting the prep work down so that I could start my own YouTube channel. Like that's really the reason why I was buying you all those appetizers.
Ah. Also, I could be the editor of Corrective Consciousness, Reactive Consciousness.
I could call them. I call them appetizers.
Boo.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm proud of myself. That's a big accomplishment, especially since like Thanksgiving was insane this year because I had 2 Thanksgiving dinners. One at noon and one at 6 o'clock. So
I'm seeing double 4 Thanksgiving dinners.
but and this is a holiday season. This is when people put on pounds. So I'm lucky in that I have been watching myself. So I will continue to do so. And hopefully I'll make some actual progress here. And not that right mindset and also watching yourself isn't progress. One thing that I think maybe you should learn, people that are dealing with this the same way I am, is that you don't have to see a change in numbers for progress to be made. Watching myself and not gaining weight is as big of an accomplishment as losing weight for me in some instances, especially in an instance like this. So don't feel like you not losing weight isn't progress, because it is. So if you're staying stable, that's a good thing too. So I want to point it out that is an accomplishment on its own. So having said that, Lotus, can you read us some fan reactions here?
Yeah, so we had a question about which do you prefer, good gameplay, bad story, or good story, bad gameplay. So Living Corpse had said, like Godzilla for the Destroy All Monsters for the Super Famicom, and Godzilla Battle Legends for the Turbo Duo. They play like Street Fighter 2, but with Godzilla monsters. And like maps from the movies like Planet X and amusement parks, or the bottom of the ocean, and like signature attacks, but no story. But you may remember Super Godzilla for the Super Nintendo. I think that might have even been like a video game nerd episode.
Super Godzilla sucks. I hate that game.
Well, here's the thing though. He was saying it actually had a good story that was well done and even had plot twists. Like when defending your base from an enemy monster, aliens kidnap your scientist, and the next level you gotta rescue them from the enemy base, but you gotta figure out which one he's at, as the others are decoys that are booby-trapped. And when you do rescue him, a monster shows up in the lake, and it turns out that they learned that the scientist was going to inject Godzilla, who you kind of play as, with cells from the first boss to make you stronger. But instead, the aliens distracted you long enough to use the same cell fusion to create another monster for you to fight. And it's like, whoa. And then
that is cool.
And on another stage, you have to kill a giant moth monster who is not Mothra. It's a different giant moth monster. But there's a cocoon of another one, and you have to choose between going the long way on land or a shortcut through water that makes you move slower to try to destroy it before it hatches. But of course, the gameplay is what people know about the game, and the gameplay is awful. It's like the map
it's a
part,
strategy game.
Yeah, the map
like
part is a strategy
game,
and when you do reach the boss, like you have to walk up to it, punch it, and then move back, and a window opens up with an attack you can use, and you have this bar of fighting spirit, and if you have a higher bar, you get higher attacks. It's like, but like the story actually sounds pretty cool. And Dracologist said, well, this is from last week's now. Dracologist said regarding like famous historical figures. There's a couple of interesting bits of historical figures who did something or other, but sadly I could only call back their actions and not their names. So just to give Hungary a shout out, he said, I would nominate one of our kings, Matthias Hunyadi, I might be saying this wrong, or Matthias Rex or Corvus Rex, like the different, like AKA. He said his dad was feared by the Ottoman Empire so much that in one novel he's described by the Turks as the boogeyman to scare children, and his victory and stopping of the tide of the Ottomans was rewarded by the noon bell. His son was dragged away and used as a political prisoner. When he came back, he was crowned king. He was known for his strong taxes, but that was made different that he placed his taxes on the lords and oligarchs, which was almost unheard of. He was known to maintain a terrifyingly large mercenary unit known as the Black Army, but his most well-known trait is the stories and tales that swing about him how he enjoyed sneaking out from his court and roaming the streets with the common folk. Many tales show him to be slightly mischievous, but overall looking out for his people, proving to noblemen that the common shepherds and farmers had more quirk and value. That's kind of cool.
What is this? An empire of putting your feet up?
But that actually kind of sounds like if Robin Hood were the king, almost.
Yeah, no, I like kings that weren't like hoity-toity, like this guy. He sounds pretty badass.
Yeah. And Lim Mao says that France has had a long line of famous leaders, such as Louis XIV, known as the Sun King, Napoleon, the first one. His sequels were less thrilling. Or even a more recent one with Charles de Gaulle. Sadly, every right-wing French politician are claiming to be his successor. That's interesting. Yep. However, if I have to pick a favorite one, I'd probably choose Jeanne d'Arc, or, as we know her as, like, Joan of Arc. While she was not really a politician, but rather a war/religious leader, her actions and her legend completely overturned the 100 Years' War. As a chemist, I would also nominate Louis Pasteur. While he did some sketchy things to obtain money and glory, he was, without a doubt, a brilliant scientist. His work ethic was terrible, though. He did inject his famous rabies vaccine to a 9-year-old while being an unlicensed physician and without complete preclinical testing. Holy shit. Also, his views on wine consumption were questionable because he said it was like the most healthful and hygienic of beverages. This is like when doctors in the 50s would like advertise cigarettes. It's like, but he was French, so what did you expect? They love their wine. Still, the Pasteur Institute was his idea and his legacy to the world, which is something amazing to be remembered for. And finally, this is kind of funny. This was going back to like games that'll ruin friendships forever. Sabaka Sensei like agrees. He says Dokapon Kingdom is the best friendship breaker. I mean, party video game on any Mario Party has a lot of randomly triggered events, but on Dokapon you could literally be the devil. Yup. I sucked at the game, and the game kind of handicapped the player who's doing like really, really badly by giving them just like god powers and letting them just fuck everybody over. It's like, I get it, but it's infuriating. So you could literally be the devil. Also, Pokemon Stadium had good minigames. Yeah, it really did, especially Lickitungs. Mm-hmm. And for physical party games, Uno. Just Uno.
I like Uno.
Yeah, but like breaking up friendships though.
Yeah.
Risk is like that too.
Well, Risk you just
Ukraine is weak. What?
Actually, I would say Risk you don't break friendships. You just want to kill yourself.
There is something.
Yeah, because you do have to roll too much by the end of the game,
and the games last way too freaking long sometimes.
It's rough. Yeah. Now, as for the question for the historical figure, he's saying El Che. While I don't agree with some of the ways like he handled the assaults and some guerrilla tactics, he was a man of respect and the people. So okay, so there are your fan responses. Now, as for a fan question, this is a quickie actually. Fakafan says, "Ever thought about speedrunning games yourselves?"
So I'm not very much into speedrunning for myself. I kind of like to play games at my own pace. However, I do really like going through a couple old favorites as fast as I can. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say I would ever be like in the major league speedrunner category, but I do like trying to beat the original Contra as quickly as possible, sure. Because I'm very good at the original Contra, and trying to see whether I can't die during that, and I would say that the original Contra and maybe the original Mario Brothers are a lot of fun to play at as high of a speed as you can.
Well, the original Super Mario Brothers, I assume?
Yes. The original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Because like the way that you run and platform in that game kind of leads to speedrunning. So
it's really smooth. Like the Mario, almost pretty much any Mario game, although the NES ones feel kind of the fastest. Even if they're not, they feel the fastest.
Sure.
Those games really look good when they're speedrun, like by someone who knows what they're doing.
I'm never going to be as good as anybody who is anywhere in that category, but if I'm going to have some fun doing that kind of thing, those are like the kind of games I like to do that in.
For me, if I were ever to speedrun a game, it would probably be like the Typing of the Dead stuff, because it's just
you're
speed
so
typing.
Good at typing. Oh my god,
they're so fun. Like And now, like, I don't think I would speedrun a different type of game unless it were really short on its own. I mean, like, I'm not really into playing Mario games, but, like, something like Mario 3 where you warp whistle twice and you're at the end of the game. Like, something you could just do quickly anyway. Like, I'm not the kind of person who would speedrun, like, a 2-hour game. But if I were to speedrun, I would probably do glitchless because, like, when you see, like, a Portal speedrun where you're, like, completely breaking the entire game, I just don't get pleasure out of that. I like speedruns where you're just really good. So I would probably just try playing a game legitimately as fast as I could. Like, I would take shortcuts if the game allowed for them, but I don't want to do literally game breaking stuff. Or again, typing in the dead, you just type fast. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree with the two of you. Like, I don't think I'd ever actually do speedruns, mainly because to my, like, OCD, I don't want to use that term lightly because I haven't been actually diagnosed, but, like, I want to get everything. So, like, for instance,
sure.
when I've been playing Dead Cells, there's those timed doors,
Mm-hmm.
and even though there have been some times when I, like, want to get to the timed door, I cannot stop myself from just, like, exploring the whole map, so I never get to the timed doors in time.
Well, it depends what you mean by 100%, because if you mean getting every collectible or something, like, there are 100% run categories of speedruns. Like when I mentioned this last week, there's a guy who 100% did baiting Kaidos, and it takes like 2 weeks because it has to.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I would never want to. I don't think, like, beating a game fast is a goal I'd have for myself. I think
Okay.
usually my goals are other things, like not getting hit or whatever it might be. But time is usually not of the essence for me because I usually like to take my time
Yeah.
and make sure that I can, like, concentrate and be patient. But if I ever were to speedrun, I would agree with Lotus where I'd be more along the lines of glitch free because while glitched speedruns do look cool and it's really interesting seeing how people can break the game, it doesn't feel to me like it's as much of a personal achievement to beat it by
Yeah.
glitching the game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the funny thing is, though, sometimes the glitches take an insane amount of skill to pull off, and it just
True.
like you wouldn't know what to look at it. But, like, yeah, even so, though, like, there are some glitches I really love seeing. Like, I don't get a lot of pleasure out of watching again the glitched portal run because you're literally, like, out of bounds more than you're not. But something like glitched Wind Waker, where you, like, circumvent dungeons in clever ways, it's like, well, this I would never play the game like that, but I got to admit that was really cool.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, anybody have anything else for the good of the order here?
No, I mean, I guess just an honorable mention real quick to, this is the obligatory Perry shout-out of the podcast, but he had mentioned that Ivan Ooze in the Power Rangers fighting game on Super Nintendo is stupid hard. And he is. He is.
Oh.
He's like SNK boss hard.
I was just gonna say any boss from an SNK game. I remember I think the boss in
Magaki from KOF 11.
I'm thinking from Real Bout Fatal Fury Special is Krauser, I think.
Oh, no.
And he, like, the only way that I could beat him, because, like, the game knows your inputs right away and reacts to them.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's literally unfair.
So you can't do any special moves against him because he just counters them. So what I did was I was Terry. I just love tapped him with low kicks and low punches because
when
he doesn't block
break
them.
the AI to beat him, it's not even fun.
He doesn't block them. So, like,
Yeah.
it was the only way I could do any damage to him, and then just play keep away.
Yeah, see, my SNK boss is Art of Fighting 2. A lot of people forgot this guy exists, but Geese used to be young and had long hair, and he beat the shit out of you. He was rough.
Nice.
That game was kind of hard because, like, nobody had any health, so he would just kill you in like 4 hits.
Art of Fighting just was that way.
Yeah.
Like hits did a lot of damage to you.
Yeah, it was like this is a weird reference to make, but it was like War Gods, like not the last boss, but the second to last boss. His gimmick was he would die in like 3 or 4 hits, but so would you. He had like all attack and no health, so it was like it was almost like a game mechanic rather than a proper boss fight.
All right, Lotus, you want to resurrect any other obscure Midway properties like
Yeah.
Biofreaks while we're at it?
Biofreaks. Yeah, let's talk about
Mace.
my favorite fighting game ever, Eternal Champions. Oh, okay.
All right. Well, that is the show for this week. Definitely want to thank our fans who contributed questions and reactions this week. Got a lot of really good stuff to react to here, and please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Keep them coming, guys. This is a lot of fun. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, Battle.net. And also, I want to quickly plug again the first Let's Play that Corrective Consciousness did of Lotus and myself playing Final Fight.
Yeah, and Vice did the recording and editing this time. This isn't even like I Let's Played and put it on Corrective Consciousness. Like, this is, like, for real. Like, Vice did the work with this one.
A Vysethebold production.
But yeah, like, it's one of those things where, like, on your Facebook profile, you put, like, CEO of Corrective Consciousness. It's like, all right.
But I do want to pimp it because it's been a long time coming, and it was a fun Let's Play to do. It was laid back and pretty cool, and it's also the start of the first of many, I hope. So I enjoyed doing it with Lotus. We've had a history here of doing co-op Let's Plays together, the three of us, with beat-em-up titles, and I want to continue doing so. But I do want to do a run-through of the Capcom beat-em-ups because they're so good. I really enjoyed that, so definitely take a look and go back and watch that because it was a lot of fun, and it doesn't take long. You know, it's a short LP. But it's fun, and it's also informative, and also has some inanity thrown in there. Correct consciousness.
The inanity of pop culture and This Week in Our Lives.
And games also. And Lotus, you can go ahead and pimp your ride.
I will do just that. So you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus
in my
Prince.
Volvo.
The Volvo. I don't even drive that anymore. You can hit me up on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince, and you could hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, the exclusive one is currently PyroJackFrost, which vysethebold introduced me to, and that game's freaking great.
Fucking great.
Select upcoming games for me to Let's Play. Next up, or well, at this point, now up for patrons, Zone of the Enders, the second runner. And finally, if you wish to get in discussions with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon accounts, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloudoid540 on Steam, Xbox Live, Battle.net, PSN, and Switch.
All right, guys, we will catch you on Tuesday for another reactive. Hopefully, we have as much to talk about as we did last reactive, because that was bitchin'.
Indeed.
But we will catch up with you soon.
All right. Until next time, everyone.
Peace out, y'all.